Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now as soon as I fired up God of War and cranked the settings up to Ultra, I knew that this would be the last time I'd probably be using the word Ultra during this video. This critically acclaimed PlayStation title has now released for PC, and while my GTX 1080 system can run it with over 50 frames per second most of the time maxed out, or at least 60 FPS with a few things turned down, it's not this once top of the range GPU that will be the primary focus today. No, this might just be the last you see of a relatively smooth experience for the next few minutes or so. Today we're seeing how well this runs with no graphics card on a couple of different setups. The first features one of the weakest yet often surprising APUs, the chip I've come to know and very much enjoy testing, the 2-core 4-thread Athlon 3000G with its integrated Radeon Vega 3 graphics. First of all, the settings. This game supports Fidelity FX Super Resolution, or FSR, which is ideal for lower end hardware. It's also got a render scale option which we could use instead. However, with this game I've noticed that utilising an output resolution of 1280 by 720 and enabling FSR for a render resolution of 640 by 360 gives us a slightly higher frame rate, about 2 FPS higher, than turning the resolution scaling down to 50%, which does give us the same render resolution on paper of 640 by 360, but it just doesn't give us quite the performance of FSR. For the graphical options, it probably goes without saying, but the custom preset needs to be enabled and the respective values should all be dropped down to their lowest, as low as we can go. This, in combination with the low resolution, will produce some interesting results, as you might expect. So as we jump into some gameplay here, we are looking into the sky, which immediately gives us a false sense of hope. We hit 30 FPS for a bit there. Now, for the most part, the game is going to hit between 20 and 30 at these settings. I'm running it in full screen mode, but we could utilise windowed mode for an even higher frame rate. It's just that it'll be even harder to see what's going on, and the performance gains will be minimal with the slight decrease in resolution. I'm going to leave things as they are at full screen, but windowed mode could very well be worth considering and playing around with if, unlike me, your eyes actually work. I mean, mine may as well be painted on. My vision is not so great. I'm sure years of turning games into about 7 pixels hasn't helped that either, but what can I say? It is fun. I'm going to say that if you're desperate to play this game and you bought this APU when it cost less than the game does on Steam, then you may be satisfied with the results. At this point I should mention Intel HD or UHD graphics. I briefly tested Intel UHD graphics and found that while the game started and loaded, there were some problems with missing textures, and I also got some flickering issues. This isn't unlike what I've seen before in other games. I like that Intel have focused a bit more on integrated graphics over the past couple of generations, but the support for them just doesn't seem as good as with AMD. That might have just been my experience specifically, and it might be something that's fixed by the time you watch this, so don't be completely disheartened. I'll be testing the Intel HD performance again when I can get my hands on the new Pentium, so look out for that. In terms of the 3000G then, the experience is a little bit headache inducing, but it's doable if you're desperate. The area of the game will also depend on the frame rate and the frame times as well. I like the way the whole game is one long uninterrupted shot. I've never seen that before, nor have I ever played this game before, so that's pretty cool. Just thought I'd mention that as it really adds to the immersion and helps take your mind off the sometimes sub 20 FPS frame rate. The second setup I'm using is my Ryzen 7 4700U 8-core laptop. This also features integrated Radeon graphics, and it's the sort of CPU you'll find in a lot of mid-range machines these days. There is no SMT, so it's just 8 cores and 8 threads. The RAM has been upgraded, so we've got two 8GB modules in dual channel mode at 3200 MHz. The first module is soldered to the board, but if you do buy a Ryzen laptop, I'd recommend either checking for dual channel memory or making sure that there is room to upgrade, as dual channel makes all the difference with these APUs. In terms of the settings here, I've gone with 720p for the output res once again, but I've been a bit more daring with the render resolution. Again, enabling FSR is better than using the render scale option, but this time I've stuck with balanced, which will render the game at 754 by 424 and then upscale it. For the absolute best performance, you could of course choose performance once again, but I thought I'd give my eyes a little more to focus on. 8 pixels instead of 7. The settings are the same at their respective lowest, or disabled if the game gives us that choice. Now this time around we're looking at 30 to 40 FPS, though if you do go with the aforementioned performance FSR option, then this will stick closer to 40 more often and exceed it on a more regular basis. It'll just look a bit worse. Native 720p will mean between 15 and 25 frames per second. Believe it or not, these settings give us the best mix of graphical quality and performance. The 1% low frame rate was recorded as 28. I saw the game drop to 29 myself when playing, but it looks like we lost another frame while I wasn't paying attention. AMD's desktop counterparts would offer even better performance. The 3400G, for example, would probably pump out a few more frames. If you do have a laptop with a 4700U, or maybe something a little newer and more powerful though, you shouldn't have any trouble in achieving at least 30 FPS most of the time, providing you don't mind the visual sacrifices required. I've still managed to have fun over the 2 to 3 hours that I continue to play this game for today using this laptop, but my standards are pretty low after spending most of 2011 gaming on one of AMD's first APUs. So overall, I think the 3000G once again did a little better than I expected, but the 4700U actually performed a little worse than I thought. This is with dual channel RAM and the laptop is also plugged in with the max performance mode enabled. Remember that dual channel is best for these APUs, and with the desktop processors, the faster the RAM the better, though the bottleneck is actually with the integrated graphics, so any differences between 2666 MHz memory and 3200 MHz memory will probably be fairly minimal when running AAA blockbusters like this one. That's all for this video then. I hope you've enjoyed this God of War with no graphics card video. It's come out a little later than I would have hoped for, but hopefully it helps any of you out there who are looking to purchase it and just can't get hold of one of those pesky things known as graphics cards right now. Nonetheless, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like down below. Leave a dislike if you didn't. If you do have an APU or a low-end system, let me know how this game runs for you down below in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.